Chapter 1. Stop reacting instantly. It's making you weak. The illusion of speed. Imagine you are sitting in a high-stakes board meeting, or perhaps you're at dinner with someone who knows exactly how to get under your skin. They say something, a sharp critique, a subtle insult, or a blatant lie. Within milliseconds, your heart rate spikes. Your face flushes. Your muscles tense. Before you've even processed the logic of what was said, your mouth opens. You snap back. You defend. You attack. In that split second, you feel a surge of energy. You think you are standing up for yourself. You think you are being strong. But in reality, you have just handed over your keys. You have just told the other person exactly where your strings are and how to pull them. The modern world has tricked us into believing that speed is a sign of intelligence and that an instant comeback is a sign of strength. We praise the quick wit and the instant clapback. But in the arena of power, speed without control is a death sentence. When you react instantly, you are not acting, you are being acted upon. You are a biological machine responding to a stimulus. You are predictable. And if you are predictable, you are easily defeated. The biology of the weak reaction. To stop reacting, you must understand why you do it. Inside your brain, there is a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. This is your radar for threats. Thousands of years ago, if a predator jumped out from the bushes, you didn't need to think, you needed to react. You needed your blood to pump to your limbs so you could fight or flee. The problem is that your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a condescending email from your boss. It treats a digital insult the same way it treats a physical threat. When you react instantly, you are experiencing an amygdala hijack. Your logical brain, the prefrontal cortex, is effectively taken offline. You are literally functioning at a lower level of human evolution. When you scream at your partner, when you send that angry text, or when you get defensive during a performance review, you are showing the world that your primitive brain is in charge. You are signaling that you do not have the capacity to govern yourself. And if you cannot govern yourself, why should anyone trust you to govern a business, a family, or a team? Predictability, the manipulator's greatest tool. Think about the people who annoy you the most. Why do they do it? Often, it's because they know exactly what reaction they will get. In the world of strategy, being predictable is the ultimate sin. If a boxer knows that every time he throws a left jab, you will duck to the right, he will eventually fake a jab and hit you with a right hook that knocks you unconscious. The same applies to your social and professional life. If your colleagues know that a certain topic makes you angry, they will use it to distract you during negotiations. If an opponent knows you are prone to defensiveness, they will bait you into over-explaining yourself until you look guilty or weak. By reacting instantly, you provide a roadmap to your own destruction. You are telling the world, here is my remote control. Press these buttons to make me move. The power of the pause. The most powerful tool in your arsenal is the air gap, the space between the stimulus and the response. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, famously noted that in the space between stimulus and response lies our growth and our freedom. In that space, we choose. When you choose to delay your reaction, something miraculous happens. You move the processing of the event from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. You move from emotion to logic. You start to ask questions. Why did they say that? What is their goal in provoking me? What is the most effective outcome for me right now? While the other person is waiting for you to explode, waiting for the noise, the anger, the defense, you give them nothing. You give them a blank wall. This silence is not passive. It is an active, aggressive assertion of self-control. It shifts the pressure from you to them. Real-world example, the loudest in the room. We have all seen the person who wins an argument by being the loudest. They shout, they interrupt, and they dominate the airwaves. In the moment, they feel like the victor. But look at the people around them. Do they feel respect? No. They feel pity, annoyance, or fear. The person who explodes in an argument has lost the moral and intellectual high ground. Even if they are 100% right on the facts, their inability to control their reaction makes them look wrong. It makes them look desperate. Now, consider the person who remains seated, leaning back slightly, listening to the shouting with a calm, curious expression. They don't interrupt. They wait for the silence. When the shouter finally runs out of breath, the calm person asks one pointed, logical question. Who has the power in that room? The shouter is a slave to their pulse. The calm person is the master of the environment. Why we fear not reacting. Many people struggle to stop reacting because they fear that if they don't respond immediately, they will look weak or stupid. They think that if they don't defend themselves right now, the insult will stick. The opposite is true. When you rush to defend yourself, you validate the attack. You act as if the insult is a serious threat that requires your full energy to combat. But when you ignore it, or when you pause and look at the attacker as if they are a curious specimen in a jar, you diminish the attack. You signal that their words are not powerful enough to move you. Your lack of reaction is the ultimate insult to your enemy. It says, "You are not important enough to change my temperature." The 3-second air gap exercise. To begin mastering this, you must start small. You cannot expect to be a stoic master in a crisis if you can't handle a slow internet connection. Starting today, implement the 3-second rule. Whenever you receive a notification, a question, an insult, or a piece of bad news, you must count to 3 before your muscles move. 1. Inhale and feel the urge to react. Observe it like a passing car. 2. Remind yourself that you are the captain of this ship. 3. Choose your response, even if that response is simply silence. This 3-second gap is where your power lives. It is where you stop being a puppet and start being a person. The goal, becoming a black hole for provocation. Imagine a star. It is bright, it is loud, it is burning energy, and eventually it explodes. Now imagine a black hole. It is silent. It is calm. And no matter what you throw at it, light, matter, insults, energy, it simply absorbs it and remains unchanged. When you stop reacting instantly, you become that black hole. People throw their anger at you, and it disappears. They throw their drama at you, and it vanishes. They try to provoke you, and they find nothing to grab onto. You become the eye of the storm. Everything around you may be in chaos, but you are still. Conclusion to Chapter 1. As we move through this book, remember that every reaction you give is a cost. It costs you energy, it costs you focus, and it costs you status. Stop spending your power on people and situations that do not deserve it. Internalize this truth. The person who can make you angry can control you. If you value your freedom, you must value your composure. From this moment on, your motto is simple. When the world tries to push you into a reflex, you will step back into the pause. You will realize that your pulse does not have to dictate your speech. You will see that the most dominant thing you can do is absolutely nothing until you have decided exactly what to do. Pause is power. Delay is dominance. Chapter 2. Your emotions are not your authority. The great modern lie. We live in an era that worships at the altar of authenticity. We are told by every movie, every pop song, and every inspirational social media post to follow our hearts, to trust our feelings, and to speak our truth. We have been conditioned to believe that our emotions are the most honest part of who we are. But here is the hard, cold truth that the world won't tell you. Your emotions are often liars. They are impulsive, they are biological, they are influenced by your blood sugar levels and how much sleep you got last night, and, most importantly, they have absolutely no interest in your long-term success. They only care about your immediate comfort. If you want to live a life of power, you must realize that feeling something does not mean you must act on it. Your emotions are not your masters. They are not your authority. They are simply weather patterns passing through the sky of your mind. You are the sky. The emotions are just the clouds. Feel it. Don't follow it. Emotions are signals, not commands. To master your reactions, you must fundamentally change your relationship with your feelings. Most people treat an emotion like a command. If they feel anger, they shout. If they feel fear, they retreat. If they feel lazy, they stay in bed. They are like soldiers who obey every random passerby who shouts an order at them. A powerful person views emotions differently. They view them as data. When you feel a surge of frustration, that is a signal. It's a notification on your internal dashboard saying, something here is not aligned with your expectations. When you feel fear, it's a signal saying, there is a perceived risk here. Imagine you are a pilot flying a plane. A red light blinks on the console. Do you scream and jump out of the cockpit? No. You acknowledge the light. You check the system. You realize it's just a sensor error or a minor issue, and you keep flying the plane toward your destination. The light is the emotion. The destination is your goal. Most people let the red light fly the plane into the ground. The biology of emotional slavery. Why is it so hard to ignore our feelings? Because for most of human history, following our feelings kept us alive. If you felt a sudden vibe of fear in the jungle, it was usually because a predator was nearby. Those who followed their feelings survived. Those who stopped to analyze the data were eaten. But we no longer live in the jungle. We live in a world of complex social hierarchies, long-term financial planning, and digital communication. In this environment, your ancient survival software is outdated. When your boss criticizes your work, your body reacts as if you are being attacked by a tribe of hostiles. Your feelings tell you to fight back or run away. But if you do either, you lose your job. Your emotions are trying to protect a version of you that hasn't existed for 10,000 years. People who stay stuck in life, stuck in bad relationships, stuck in low-paying jobs, stuck in cycles of drama, are usually people who obey their anger, fear, and frustration like orders. They are emotional slaves. Feel it. Don't follow it. The trap of I am. The greatest mistake in the English language is saying, I am angry. When you say, I am angry, you are identifying with the emotion. You are merging your identity with a temporary chemical state. This makes it almost impossible to control. If you are the anger, then the anger must do what it wants. Instead, the controlled person says, I am experiencing anger, or I notice a feeling of frustration. This creates a separation of powers. There is the you, the observer, the decision maker, and there is the emotion, the temporary visitor. When you create this distance, you gain the ability to look at the emotion objectively. You can watch it rise, watch it peak, and watch it fade away without ever having moved a muscle in response to it. The cost of emotional obedience. Think of every major mistake you have made in your life. That bridge you burned with a mentor. That relationship you destroyed during a midnight argument. That investment you sold in a panic because the market dipped. That project you quit because you didn't feel like it anymore. Almost every regret in human history can be traced back to a moment where someone obeyed a temporary feeling and ignored a permanent principle. Weak people are governed by their mood. If they are in a good mood, they are productive. If they are in a bad mood, they are useless. This makes them completely unreliable. The powerful person, however, has a fixed standard. Their output and their reactions remain consistent regardless of how they feel inside. They might feel like the world is ending, but they show up, they speak with composure, and they execute their duties. Their internal weather does not dictate their external performance. The discipline of the unmoved. There is a profound freedom in realizing that you don't have to act on your feelings. Imagine someone insults you in front of a group of people. Your feeling is a hot, burning desire to humiliate them back. You feel the words sitting on the tip of your tongue. You feel the adrenaline. Now, imagine you just let it sit there. You feel the heat, but you don't speak. You look at the person with a calm, steady gaze. You feel the anger, but you don't follow it. The silence that follows is devastating to the attacker. By not following your emotion, you have essentially said, your attempt to move me has failed. I am the one who decides when I move. This is the unmoved mind. It is the ability to sit in the middle of a fire and not be burned. It is the realization that your internal state is your private domain, and no one, not even your own biology, is allowed to make decisions there without your permission. Training the gap, the laboratory technique. How do you begin to separate your authority from your emotions? You treat your life like a laboratory. When you feel an emotion starting to boil over, stop and describe it mentally as if you are a scientist observing a chemical reaction in a beaker. I feel a tightening in my chest. I feel my heart rate increasing to roughly 100 beats per minute. I notice a desire to raise my voice. By describing the emotion, you engage the logical part of your brain. You move from the participant to the observer. You are no longer drowning in the wave. You are standing on the shore, watching the wave crash. Practice this with small things. When you are hungry and irritable, recognize the hunger-anger, hangry, as a biological glitch. Don't let it affect how you speak to your spouse. When you are tired and want to skip the gym, recognize the lethargy as a suggestion, not a command. Feel it. Don't follow it. The authority of the will. At the end of the day, there can only be one captain of the ship. If your emotions are the captain, you will be blown off course by every minor breeze. You will spend your life reacting to the ripples in the water. But if your will is the captain, the ship stays the course. The winds of anger will blow, the waves of fear will crash, and the fog of sadness will roll in. But the captain does not change the destination based on the weather. The captain adjusts the sails and keeps moving forward. Discipline is the act of doing what needs to be done, regardless of your emotional state. Power is the act of choosing your response, regardless of your internal trigger. Conclusion to Chapter 2. You are going to feel a lot of things today. You might feel overlooked. You might feel disrespected. You might feel tired or anxious. Acknowledge those feelings. Give them their space. But do not give them the wheel. Do not let a 10-minute emotion make a 10-year decision for you. When the urge to react rises up in your throat, remember, you are the authority. The emotion is just the messenger. And you do not have to listen to every messenger that knocks on your door. Feel it. Don't follow it. Chapter 3. Silence is a weapon, use it. The vacuum of the unsaid. Think back to the last time you were in a conversation that suddenly went quiet. Perhaps it was a first date, a job interview, or a tense moment with a friend. Do you remember the physical sensation that crawled up your spine? That frantic, internal scramble to find anything to say? How's the weather? Did you see that news story? Anyway, as I was saying, most people treat silence like a social failure. They treat it like a hole that needs to be plugged immediately with noise. But the master of controlled reactions treats silence as a vacuum, and a vacuum is one of the most powerful forces in nature. When you refuse to fill the silence, you create a psychological void. Human nature cannot stand a void. It will do almost anything to fill it. If you are the one holding the silence, the other person will be the one who rushes to fill it. And when people rush to fill silence, they reveal their hand. They leak information. They expose their insecurities. They offer concessions they hadn't planned to make. In negotiations, in relationships, and in conflict, silence isn't just the absence of noise. It is a weapon. Silence speaks. Noise weakens. The biology of the awkward pause. Why does silence feel so heavy? Why does it make our hearts race? It goes back to our tribal roots. In a primitive tribe, being in sync with the group was a matter of life and death. Silence often signaled social exclusion, disapproval, or a hidden threat. When the group went quiet, it meant something was wrong. Today, we carry that same biological baggage. When you are silent in response to someone's question or provocation, their brain interprets that silence as a threat signal. Their blood pressure rises. Their anxiety spikes. They begin to wonder, what are they thinking? Are they angry? Are they unimpressed? Do they know something I don't? By simply doing nothing, you have seized the psychological high ground. You haven't said a word, yet you are the one directing the emotional energy of the room. The other person is now working to please you, to fix the silence, and to regain your approval. You haven't fired a shot, but you've already won the skirmish. Silence in negotiation. He who speaks first loses. There is an old rule in high-level sales and diplomacy. The first person to speak after a proposal is made usually loses. Imagine you are negotiating a salary or the price of a car. The other party gives you a number. Most people react instantly. They say, "Oh, that's too high," or "Could you do better?" They start haggling immediately. The master of controlled reactions does something different. They listen to the number, and then they say nothing. They don't nod. They don't shake their head. They just look the other person in the eye and wait. 3 seconds pass. It feels like an hour. 5 seconds pass. The other person starts to sweat. 7 seconds pass. Inevitably, the other person will break. They will say, "Well, I could probably talk to my manager and get you another 5% off." Or, "I know it sounds like a lot, but let me see if I can throw in the extended warranty for free." You didn't have to argue. You didn't have to sell. You simply allowed the silence to do the work for you. Silence is the ultimate no. It is a no that requires no effort and leaves no room for rebuttal. Silence in conflict, the mirror effect. When someone is shouting at you, criticizing you, or trying to bait you into an argument, they are looking for a hook. They want your reaction so they can use it as fuel for their next attack. If you get angry, they call you unstable. If you get defensive, they call you guilty. But if you meet their noise with absolute, unwavering silence, you hold up a mirror to their behavior. Imagine a person screaming at a brick wall. How long can they keep it up before they look and feel ridiculous? Without your reaction to feed the fire dies. When you remain silent during a conflict, the other person is forced to hear the echoes of their own voice. They become acutely aware of how loud they are, how irrational they sound, and how much they are overreacting. Silence is a shield that reflects the opponent's energy back onto them. It makes you appear immovable, like a mountain. And you cannot defeat a mountain by shouting at it. Silence speaks. Noise weakens. The listen more than you speak strategy. There is a reason we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth. In any interaction, the person who is talking is the one who is giving away power. The person who is listening is the one who is gathering it. When you speak, you are revealing your thoughts, your biases, and your limits. You are showing people exactly what you know and, more importantly, what you don't know. When you are silent, people project their own fears and expectations onto you. They assume you are deeper, smarter, and more calculating than you might actually be. Powerful leaders, the true masters of influence, rarely lead the conversation. They ask a question, and then they disappear into the background. They let everyone else argue, brag, and complain. By the end of the meeting, the leader has a complete map of everyone's motives, weaknesses, and alliances. The others have nothing but the sound of their own voices. Don't feel the need to prove how smart you are by talking. The smartest person in the room is usually the one who says the least. Silence as a tool of authority. In your personal life, silence can be the most effective way to set a boundary. If someone says something disrespectful or crosses a line, you don't always need to give them a lecture on why they were wrong. A lecture is a reaction. A reaction is a gift. Instead, try the disapproving silence. Stop what you are doing. Look at them for a few seconds with a neutral, calm expression. Then, go back to what you were doing or move the conversation to a completely different, mundane topic. This sends a clearer message than 1,000 words of anger. It says, "What you just said was so beneath me that it doesn't even warrant a verbal response." It leaves them wondering where they stand with you. It creates a healthy level of uncertainty that makes them more careful with their words in the future. Practical exercise. The 5-second pause. To master the weapon of silence, you must practice it in low-stakes environments. Tomorrow, in every conversation you have, practice a 5-second pause before you answer a question or respond to a comment. Even if it's a simple question like, "What do you want for lunch?" Notice the urge to speak immediately. Notice the social pressure to be quick. Resist it. Count to 5 in your head while maintaining eye contact. What you will find is that people will often keep talking before you even get to 5. They will clarify their question, they will add more detail, or they will start answering the question for you. You will realize how much power you've been giving away just by being polite and speaking too soon. The mystery of the quiet man. There is a reason the strong, silent type is a trope in our culture. It's because mystery is a form of power. When you are noisy, you are solved. People know what you think, how you feel, and how you will react. You are a known quantity. When you are quiet, you are an enigma. And humans are naturally inclined to respect and fear what they cannot fully understand. Your silence creates a force field of authority. It forces people to step lightly around you. It makes your words, when you do choose to use them, have 10 times the impact. If you speak all the time, your words are like pennies, common and cheap. If you speak rarely, your words are like gold bars, rare and incredibly valuable. Conclusion to Chapter 3. Noise is the tool of the desperate. It is the sound of someone trying to convince the world that they matter. Silence is the tool of the powerful. It is the sound of someone who already knows they do. The next time you are in a situation where you feel the urge to explain, to defend, or to argue, stop. Close your mouth. Breath. Let the silence grow until it becomes uncomfortable for everyone else. Watch them scramble. Watch them reveal themselves. The less you say, the more they will listen when you finally decide to speak. Silence speaks. Noise weakens. Chapter 4. Control the first 10 seconds. The threshold of no return. Every disaster in your life, every bridge burned, every regrettable word spoken, every impulsive decision that cost you money or respect, was born in a tiny window of time. That window is roughly 10 seconds long. When you are triggered, whether by an insult, a piece of bad news, or a sudden obstacle, your brain enters a state of high alert. This is the threshold of no return. In these 10 seconds, your body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate spikes, your vision narrows, and your logic is hijacked by your survival instincts. Most people live their entire lives as victims of these 10 seconds. They feel the trigger, and they explode immediately. They don't realize that if they could simply survive those first 10 seconds without reacting, the chemical surge would begin to dissipate and their power would return. If you can win the first 10 seconds, you win the outcome. The science of the biological hijack. To control the reaction, you must understand the chemistry. When a trigger occurs, the amygdala, that ancient part of your brain we discussed earlier, sends an immediate distress signal to the hypothalamus. This is the general of your brain's army. The general doesn't ask questions. He just orders the release of adrenaline. This happens in less than a second. For the next 9 seconds, your body is essentially on autopilot. Your thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, is like a computer trying to reboot while the power is flickering. It's there, but it's not in control. You are, quite literally, temporarily insane. If you speak during these 10 seconds, you are speaking from a place of biological panic. If you act during these 10 seconds, you are acting as a primitive animal. The secret of the most composed people on earth, from elite special forces to world-class CEOs, is that they have trained themselves to recognize this 10-second chemical dump and wait for it to pass before they make a move. The anatomy of a trigger. How do you know when the 10 seconds have started? You don't wait for the thought, you look for the physical ping. Your body always knows you're triggered before your mind does. Does your throat feel tight? Do you feel a sudden heat in your ears or the back of your neck? Do your fists clench? Does your breath become shallow and move to your upper chest? These are the early warning signals. Most people ignore them and go straight to the reaction. But the master of controlled reactions uses these signals as a stop sign. The moment you feel that heat, the moment you feel that clench, you must tell yourself, the 10-second clock has started. Do nothing. Win the first 10 seconds, win the outcome. The 3-step tactical delay. To survive this window, you need a system. You cannot rely on willpower because willpower is weak during a chemical hijack. You need a protocol. Step 1. The tactical breath. The moment you feel the trigger, you must take control of your diaphragm. Deep, slow breathing is the only way to manually override your nervous system. By breathing deeply into your belly, you send a signal to your brain that says, "We are not in physical danger. You can stand down." Step 2. The observation. Instead of focusing on the person who triggered you, turn your focus inward. Become a spectator of your own biology. Say to yourself, "My heart is racing. My jaw is tight." This is a fascinating physiological response. By labeling the sensations, you move the activity in your brain from the emotional center back to the logical center. You are no longer the angry person. You are the person observing anger. Step 3. The 10-second count. This sounds overly simple, but it is a psychological cheat code. Count to 10. Slowly. If the situation is intense, Count to 20. While you are counting, do not plan your comeback. Do not think of the perfect insult. Just count. By the time you reach 10, the peak of the adrenaline surge has passed. The hijack is over. You are now back in the driver's seat. The illusion of urgency. The reason most people fail to wait 10 seconds is that the amygdala creates a false urgency. It whispers to you, if you don't defend yourself right now, you look weak. If you don't send that email now, they'll think they won. You have to strike back immediately. This is a lie. In 99% of human interactions, there is absolutely no penalty for waiting 10 seconds to speak. In fact, there is usually a massive reward. Think about the most powerful people you know. When they are asked a difficult question or when they are insulted, do they scramble to answer? No. They pause. They look at you. They take a sip of water. They let the silence hang. This pause doesn't make them look slow. It makes them look dangerous. It signals that they are so confident in their position that they don't feel the need to rush. Urgency is the mark of the subordinate. Composure is the mark of the leader. Rewiring the habit. Every time you successfully survive the first 10 seconds without reacting, you are physically changing your brain. This is called neuroplasticity. Currently, your brain has a high-speed highway that leads directly from trigger to reaction. It's an easy path because you've driven it 1,000 times. Every time you pause and breathe, you are hacking a new path through the jungle. At first, it's difficult. It feels unnatural. You will feel like you're going to explode if you don't say something. But the more you do it, the wider that new path becomes. Eventually, the pause becomes your default setting. You will reach a point where someone can scream in your face, and your brain will instinctively go into observation mode rather than reaction mode. You become a fortress that cannot be breached from the outside. Case study: the corporate war zone. Imagine you are in a meeting. Your rival interrupts you and says, "That's the most ridiculous idea I've heard all year." You clearly haven't done your research. The weak path. You react in the first 2 seconds. You get defensive. "I have done my research." You're the one who is always interrupting. Your voice is high-pitched. You look emotional. You have lost. The controlled path. You feel the heat in your neck. You recognize the trigger. You take one slow, deep breath. You count 1, 2, 3. You look at your notes. 4, 5, 6. You look at the person with a neutral expression. 7, 8, 9, 10. By second 10, your heart rate has leveled out. You look at them calmly and say, "That's an interesting perspective. Which specific part of the data are you concerned with?" By waiting those 10 seconds, you have transformed from a person on the defensive to a person who is conducting an interview. You have maintained your status, and you have forced them to justify their aggression. The 10-second rule in private life. This isn't just for business, it's for the people you love. Most relationship wounds are self-inflicted during those first 10 seconds of a disagreement. When your partner says something that hurts, the urge is to hurt them back. That urge is a chemical reflex. If you can wait 10 seconds, you will remember that you actually love this person and that winning an argument is not worth damaging the relationship. Win the first 10 seconds, win the outcome. Practical training, the cold shower and the delay. To train your 10-second muscle, you must practice when the stakes are low. One of the best training grounds is a cold shower. When that freezing water hits your skin, your body's immediate reaction is to gasp, tense up, and jump out. That is your 10-second hijack. Force yourself to stand there. Count to 10. Breathe slowly. Don't move. Once you reach 10, you'll find that the water is still cold, but the panic is gone. You have mastered the reflex. Do this with your phone, too. When you get a ping or a notification that makes you feel anxious or excited, don't check it immediately. Set a timer. Wait 60 seconds. Prove to yourself that you, not the device, decide when you react. Conclusion to Chapter 4. The first 10 seconds are the battlefield where your character is forged. If you give in to the impulse, you are just another predictable human being, easily manipulated and easily discarded. But if you can master that tiny window of time, if you can breathe when others gasp and count when others shout, you possess a power that very few people on this planet ever achieve. You are no longer a slave to your chemistry. You are the architect of your response. The next time you are triggered, remember, the surge will pass. The heat will fade. The clock is ticking. All you have to do is survive the first 10 seconds. Win the first 10 seconds, win the outcome. Chapter 5. Stop giving people emotional access to you. The open door policy. Imagine you own a beautiful, tranquil home. Inside, there is peace, order, and everything you value. Now, imagine that you leave the front door wide open, 24 hours a day. Anyone can walk in. A stranger can walk into your living room and start screaming. A coworker can walk into your kitchen and throw trash on the floor. A random person from the street can walk into your bedroom and keep you awake all night with their drama. If you lived this way, people would think you were insane. They would ask, why don't you just lock the door? And yet, this is exactly how most people live their emotional lives. They leave the doors to their minds wide open. They allow anyone, a toxic boss, a rude stranger on the internet, an ungrateful relative, to walk right in and ruin their day. They give emotional access to people who haven't earned it, don't deserve it, and don't care about them. When you react to someone, you are handing them the keys to your house. You are telling them, I am giving you the power to change my heart rate, ruin my mood, and dictate my thoughts. No reaction, no control. The currency of attention. In the digital age, we hear a lot about the attention economy. Companies spend billions of dollars to get 3 seconds of your time. Why? Because attention is the most valuable resource on earth. The same is true in your personal life. Your attention is your currency. Your reaction is the payout. When someone tries to provoke you, whether they are being passive-aggressive, insulting your work, or baiting you into an argument, they are fishing. They are casting a hook into the water, hoping for a bite. If you react, you have given them exactly what they want. You have paid them. People who feed on drama are emotionally bankrupt. They don't have their own internal peace, so they have to steal it from others. They feel significant only when they can move someone else. If they can make you angry, they feel powerful. If they can make you defensive, they feel superior. The moment you refuse to react, you make yourself expensive. You are saying, my emotional state is a high-value asset, and I do not give it away for free to anyone who asks. The narcissism of the provocateur. We often think that people who attack us are strong. We think they are winners because they are being aggressive. But the truth is the opposite. The person who constantly seeks to trigger others is a person who is starving for significance. They are so small in their own lives that the only way they can feel big is by causing a ripple in yours. Think about the internet troll. This is someone who sits in a dark room, typing insults at strangers. Why? Because in the real world, they are invisible. No one listens to them. No one respects them. But if they can write a comment that makes you type a 3-paragraph response in a fit of rage, they have suddenly become the most important person in your life for those 10 minutes. They have successfully hijacked your brain. When you understand this, your anger turns into a form of pity. You realize that their attack isn't about you. It's a desperate cry for attention, and you are under no obligation to provide it. The grey rock method. There is a psychological technique used to deal with toxic and narcissistic people called the grey rock method. The goal is exactly what it sounds like. You become as uninteresting and unresponsive as a grey rock on the side of the road. When a toxic person tries to bait you, you don't argue. You don't defend. You don't even get visibly annoyed. You give short, non-committal answers. Okay. I see. That's an interesting opinion. You offer zero emotional juice. Toxic people are like fire. They need oxygen to survive. Your reaction, your anger, your tears, your explanations, is the oxygen. If you stop reacting, the fire eventually goes out. They will get bored and go find someone else to bother. By denying them emotional access, you have made yourself a low-yield target. No reaction, no control. Online arguments and the trap of the last word. One of the greatest leaks of emotional power in the modern world is the online argument. We have all been there. You see a post that is factually wrong or deeply offensive. You feel that itch in your fingers. You start typing. You tell yourself you are standing up for the truth. You tell yourself you are educating them. 2 hours later, your heart is pounding, you ignored your family, you've accomplished nothing, and the other person hasn't changed their mind one bit. In fact, they are probably more entrenched in their view than ever. What happened? You gave emotional access to a ghost. You allowed a sequence of pixels on a screen to dictate your biological state. The last word is a trap. It is an ego-driven desire to win a battle that doesn't exist. True power is seeing the post, feeling the itch, and simply closing the app. It is the realization that 99.9% of the people on this planet do not matter to your mission. Why are you giving them access to your peace? Respecting the VIP section of your mind. Think of your life as a theater. There is the general admission section. This is for the public, the co-workers, the strangers. Then there is the VIP section. This is for your family, your closest friends, and your mentors. Finally, there is the backstage or the stage itself. This is for you and your inner peace. Most people let everyone into the VIP section. They let a waiter's rude remark sit in the same place in their heart as their spouse's love. This is a lack of emotional hygiene. You must categorize people. If a stranger is rude to you, they stay in general admission. Their opinion has a weight of 0. You don't react because they haven't earned the right to be heard. If a toxic coworker tries to undermine you, they stay outside the theater entirely. You deal with them professionally, but you do not let their vibe cross the threshold of your mind. The VIP section is only for those who have proven they have your best interests at heart. These are the only people whose feedback should be allowed to affect your emotions. Everyone else is just noise. And you don't react to noise, you just filter it out. The cost of being easily moved. If you are someone who reacts to everything, you are essentially a cheap person. I don't mean cheap in terms of money, I mean cheap in terms of influence. If a minor criticism can make you quit, if a small insult can make you yell, and if a like on social media can make your day, then you are a leaf in the wind. You have no center. The powerful individual is expensive. It takes a massive, significant event to move them. They are like a heavy, deep-keeled ship. A small wave doesn't even make them tilt. When you stop giving people emotional access, you start building that keel. You become a person of substance. People begin to realize that pushing your buttons is a waste of time because your buttons don't work for them. You have rewired the controls. Practical exercise. The no access list. Sit down today and make a list of the people or situations that currently have unauthorized access to your emotions. Is it a certain relative? Is it a specific social media platform? Is it the fear of what your neighbors think? Next to each item, write, access revoked. The next time that person speaks or that situation arises, visualize a massive, soundproof glass wall between you and them. You can see them moving their mouth. You can see them gesturing. But the sound doesn't reach you. The energy doesn't touch you. You are observing them from a position of safety and detachment. They are trying to get in, but the door is finally locked. Conclusion to Chapter 5. Your peace is your most sacred possession. It is the soil in which your success, your happiness, and your health grow. If you let every passerby stomp on that soil, nothing will ever grow there. Stop being so available. Stop being so triggerable. Realize that your reaction is a gift, and you are going to stop giving it to people who use it to hurt you. When you master the art of denying access, you become a king or queen of your own internal kingdom. The borders are secure. The noise of the world stays outside the walls. And for the first time in your life, you are truly free. No reaction, no control. Chapter 6. Detach to dominate. The surgeon's hands. Imagine you are lying on an operating table. You are about to undergo a life-saving, high-risk surgery. As the surgeon walks into the room, you look into their eyes. Would you want them to be highly emotional about your situation? Would you want them to be weeping with empathy for your family, or trembling with anger at the unfairness of your illness? Of course not. You want that surgeon to be cold. You want them to be precise. You want them to be detached. In our society, we have been taught that detachment is a negative trait. We are told it means being robotic, heartless, or uncaring. But in the world of high performance and power, detachment is the highest form of discipline. It is the ability to separate your internal state from the external chaos. A surgeon who is too attached to the patient's pain cannot make the necessary incision. A leader who is too attached to being liked cannot make the hard decision. To dominate your environment, you must first detach from it. Detached mind. Controlled life. Attachment is vulnerability. Every time you are attached to something, a specific outcome, someone else's opinion of you, or the need to be right, you have created a handle that someone else can grab. If you are attached to your reputation, an insult can crush you. If you are attached to a specific deal closing, a no can ruin your month. If you are attached to your ego, a minor correction can make you defensive and small. Attachment is the root of all reactive behavior. It creates a tether between your heart and the world. When the world moves, you are pulled along with it. Detachment is the act of cutting that tether. It doesn't mean you don't have goals, and it doesn't mean you don't love people. It means you have realized that your fundamental peace is not dependent on those things. You care about the work, but you are not defined by the result. You care about the person, but you are not destroyed by their moods. The view from 10,000 feet. The primary reason we react is that we are too close to the situation. We are in the weeds. When someone insults you, it feels like a giant boulder falling on your head because you are standing directly under it. Detachment is the mental process of zooming out. It is moving from the ground level to 10,000 feet in the air. From 10,000 feet, the person shouting at you is just a tiny speck. The crisis at the office is just a small blip on a much larger map. The argument you're having is just a few seconds in a life that spans decades. When you detach, you gain perspective. And perspective is the parent of composure. The most powerful individuals in any room stay centered because they are looking at the big picture while everyone else is focused on the immediate mosquito bite. They are playing the long game while others are fighting over the next 30 seconds. Observation versus interaction. There is a massive difference between observing a storm and being caught in one. When you are attached, you are in the storm. You are being blown around by the winds of other people's opinions. When you are detached, you are standing behind a thick glass window, watching the storm. You see the lightning, you hear the thunder, but you don't feel the rain. This is the watcher mindset. When a conflict arises, your goal is to stop being a participant and start being an observer. Instead of saying, "He is making me so angry," say, "I am observing a man who is attempting to use anger to gain leverage. I am also observing a rising sensation of heat in my own chest." By shifting to the language of observation, you break the emotional spell. You become a scientist studying a specimen. You cannot be dominated by something you are objectively studying. Detached mind. Controlled life. The power of outcome independence. In the world of sales and dating, there is a concept called outcome independence. It is the most attractive and powerful state a human being can be in. It means, I would like this to go a certain way, but I will be perfectly fine if it doesn't. When you are outcome independent, you don't give off the scent of neediness or desperation. People can sense when you are attached to their approval, and it makes them lose respect for you. It signals that they have power over you. But when you are detached, when you are willing to walk away from any deal, any conversation, or any relationship that doesn't meet your standards, you become the one in control. The person who needs the least has the most power. By detaching from the need for a specific result, you actually become more likely to achieve that result because you are operating with a clear, unclouded mind. Detachment in chaos. The eye of the storm. The eye of the storm is the center of a hurricane. While the winds around it are moving at 150 miles per hour, destroying everything in their path, the eye is perfectly calm. There is no wind. There is no rain. There is only stillness. To dominate your life, you must become the eye. When your company is failing, when your relationship is crumbling, or when your reputation is being attacked, everyone expects you to be swept up in the wind. They expect you to panic. If you remain detached, if you remain still, you become a magnetic force. People are drawn to stillness in the midst of chaos. They will look to you for direction because you are the only one who can still see the map. You aren't unfeeling, you are simply unshaken. Your detachment allows you to process information rationally while others are processing it emotionally. While they are screaming, you are calculating. While they are crying, you are executing. The so what? Filter. A practical tool for detachment is the so what? Filter. When something happens that would normally trigger a reaction, ask yourself, so what? They didn't invite me to the meeting. So what? I have more time to work on my primary project. He said something rude about my background. So what? His opinion doesn't change my bank account or my character. The flight is delayed 4 hours. So what? I cannot change the weather. I will read a book instead. We spend 90% of our emotional energy on things that do not matter in the grand scheme of our lives. Detachment is the art of financial management for your soul. It is refusing to spend your expensive energy on so what events. Detachment is not apathy. A common critique is, if I detach, I'll stop caring about my work or my family. I'll become a zombie. This is a misunderstanding. Detachment is not about not caring. It is about choosing when to care. Apathy is a lack of purpose. Detachment is a surplus of focus. You care deeply about your mission. You care deeply about your values. But you detach from the noise that gets in the way of those things. You detach from the petty insults, the ego battles, and the daily drama. You are like a high-speed train. You care about reaching the destination, but you are detached from the bugs that splat against the windshield. You don't stop the train every time a bug hits the glass to mourn it or argue with it. You just keep moving. Practice the third-person narrative. To build the muscle of detachment, try narrating your life in the third person during moments of stress. If you are stuck in traffic and late for a meeting, instead of thinking, I'm going to be late, this is terrible, I'm so stressed, try narrating it like a documentary. Here we see your name. He is currently sitting in a metal box on a highway. His heart rate is increasing. He is worried about a meeting that will be forgotten by everyone in the room within 48 hours. He is currently experiencing a classic human stress response to a minor logistical delay. It's almost impossible to stay angry when you are narrating your own life like a National Geographic special. You have successfully created the gap. You have detached. Conclusion to Chapter 6. The world is a chaotic, noisy, and often irrational place. If you allow yourself to be attached to every ripple on the surface, you will be exhausted before you even get started. Dominance does not come from forcing the world to be still. It comes from being still while the world is forced to move around you. Choose your attachments wisely. Attach yourself to your principles, your discipline, and your long-term vision. Detach from everything else. When you are no longer a slave to outcomes, opinions, or your own ego, you become a force of nature. You are the eye of the storm. You are the surgeon with the steady hand. You are the one who stays centered while the world loses its mind. Detached mind. Controlled life. Chapter 7. Train your mind to respond, not react. The myth of natural calm. There is a common misconception that some people are simply born calm. We look at the stoic leader, the unflappable athlete, or the person who remains cool under intense verbal fire, and we tell ourselves, that's just their personality. They don't feel the heat the way I do. This is a lie. And it is a dangerous lie because it gives you an excuse to remain weak. No one is born with the innate ability to override their biological survival instincts. Every person you admire for their composure is simply an athlete of the mind. They have spent years, perhaps decades, training their nervous system to respond rather than react. A reaction is an accident. A response is a choice. A reaction is immediate, emotional, and subconscious. A response is delayed, logical, and conscious. If you want to move from being a reactor to being a responder, you must stop waiting for motivation to hit you. You cannot think your way into a controlled life. You must train your way into it. Train it daily or lose it instantly. The failure of motivation in crisis. Most people read books like this and think, I feel so motivated to stay calm now. They walk into their next meeting feeling inspired to be stoic. But then, someone interrupts them. Someone insults their intelligence. Someone challenges their authority. In that microsecond, motivation vanishes. Motivation is a fair-weather friend. It's there when things are easy, but it deserts you the moment the adrenaline hits. You do not rise to the level of your motivation in a crisis. You fall to the level of your training. If you haven't built the muscle memory of self-restraint during the quiet times, you will have nothing to draw upon when the storm hits. You must treat your mind like a high-performance engine. You don't wait for a race to see if the engine works. You test it, tune it, and push it every single day in the garage. The training ground. Micro-stressors. You don't need a tragedy to train your mind. In fact, training during a tragedy is a recipe for failure. You need to use the micro-stressors of daily life as your mental gym. Most people see a red light, a slow internet connection, or a long line at the grocery store as an annoyance. The master of controlled reaction sees these as representatives. The red light. Your body wants to tense up. You want to check your phone. You want to sigh in frustration. The rep. Sit perfectly still. Keep your hands relaxed on the wheel. Breathe slowly. Observe the urge to be impatient and refuse to give in to it. The rude clerk. Your ego wants to snap back. You want to prove you are superior. The rep. Smile. Remain polite. Maintain your internal temperature despite their external coldness. The cold food. You want to complain. You feel wronged. The rep. Eat the food. Realize that a lukewarm meal cannot actually harm your character. Practice being content with what is. If you cannot control your reaction to a 30-second delay in traffic, you have zero chance of controlling your reaction when a business deal falls through or a relationship ends. Every minor inconvenience is a test. Are you passing the test, or are you letting the environment dictate your mood? The response framework. Analyze, choose, execute. When a trigger happens, the trained mind follows a specific 3-step protocol. It happens fast, but it is a deliberate sequence. 1. Analyze. The moment the stimulus hits, you step back into observer mode. You ask, what is actually happening here? Is this a physical threat or an ego threat? Most emergencies are just ego threats. By labeling it, you strip it of its power. 2. Choose. Once you've analyzed the situation, you look at your menu of responses. You don't just take the first one, the reaction. You look at the alternatives. Option A. Shout back, low power. Option B. Stay silent, high power. Option C. Ask a clarifying question, strategic power. You choose the one that serves your long-term goal, not your short-term impulse. 3. Execute. You perform the chosen response with total composure. No shaky voice. No frantic movements. You execute your choice as if it were the most natural thing in the world. This sequence, analyze, choose, execute, is the difference between a master and a slave. A slave skips the first 2 steps and goes straight to a blind execution of their impulse. The physicality of self-control. You cannot separate the mind from the body. If your body is soft, your mind will be reactive. To train the mind to respond, you must subject the body to controlled discomfort. This is why many of the most powerful people in history practiced forms of asceticism or intense physical discipline. Cold exposure. A cold shower is a 3-minute masterclass in controlled reactions. Your body screams, "Get out." That is a reaction. Your mind says, "Stay." That is a response. When you can stand in freezing water and keep your breathing slow, you are training the exact same neural pathways you use to stay calm when someone is screaming at you. Fastened states. Deliberately going without food for 16 or 24 hours is another form of training. Your body feels the urgency of hunger. It tries to make you irritable and impulsive. By choosing not to eat, you are telling your biology, "I am the authority here, not my stomach." Physical fatigue. When you are exhausted at the end of a workout and your body wants to quit, but you do one more rep, that is a response. You are training the prefrontal cortex to override the amygdala. Train it daily or lose it instantly. The danger of emotional atrophy. Discipline is not a destination. It is a state of being. If you stop training, your reaction muscles will begin to atrophy. We see this often with people who become very successful and comfortable. They surrounded themselves with yes men. They never face resistance. They stop training in the micro moments. Then, when a real challenge finally appears, they have a public meltdown. They lose their minds over something small because they haven't had a rep in 5 years. You must stay hungry for resistance. You should actually seek out small moments of discomfort to ensure your blade remains sharp. Don't wish for an easier life. Wish for more opportunities to practice restraint. Mental rehearsal, the pre-mortem of the mind. Elite athletes and chess grandmasters use visualization to train their responses. You should do the same. Every morning, spend 2 minutes doing a mental pre-mortem. Look at your schedule for the day. Who is likely to annoy me today? What meeting might go sideways? What email am I dreading? Now, visualize those things happening. See the rude comment. Feel the ping of the trigger in your body. But then, visualize yourself not reacting. See yourself taking that breath. See yourself remaining silent. See yourself responding with clinical, detached logic. By pre-playing the reaction, you take away the element of surprise. When it actually happens later that day, your brain says, "Oh, I've been here before. We're doing the calm response protocol." You have already won the battle before it began. The mirror of character. The way you respond to the world is a mirror of your internal character. If you are a person who is easily rattled, it means you are internally cluttered. You are full of insecurities, unmanaged ego, and lack of purpose. If you are a person who is composed, it means you have done the hard work of internal house cleaning. Training your mind to respond is not just about winning arguments or being a boss. It is about becoming a person of substance. It is about reaching a point where your peace is so solid that the world could burn down around you, and you would still be able to make a rational, effective decision. Conclusion to Chapter 7. The world is your gym. Every person you meet is a potential trainer. Every inconvenience is a piece of equipment. Stop complaining about the weights being heavy. The weights are what make you strong. The traffic isn't in your way. The traffic is the way to a disciplined mind. The rude boss isn't ruining your day. The rude boss is providing a high-stakes training session for your composure. If you don't train your restraint today, you will be a victim of your impulses tomorrow. The choice is yours. Will you be the athlete, or will you be the equipment? Train it daily or lose it instantly. Chapter 8. Weak people need to be heard. Strong people choose when to speak. The compulsion of the small mind. Think about the last time someone misunderstood you. Perhaps they accused you of something you didn't do, or they misinterpreted your intentions in a meeting. What was your immediate, visceral reaction? For most people, it is a frantic, desperate need to explain. You feel an itch in your throat. You want to launch into a 3-page email or a 30-minute monologue justifying your actions. You want to say, "No, you don't understand. What I meant was..." Or "the reason I did that was because..." This urge feels like standing up for yourself. It feels like setting the record straight. But in the hierarchy of power, this urge is one of the clearest signals of weakness. When you rush to explain yourself, you are implicitly saying, "Your opinion of me is more important than my own reality. I need your permission to be right. I need your validation to feel okay." Weak people have a desperate need to be heard because they don't trust their own value unless it is reflected in the eyes of others. Strong people, however, understand that their value is not up for debate. They don't explain. They execute. Don't explain. Execute. The defense is a confession principle. There is a subtle psychological phenomenon that happens when you defend yourself too vigorously. You actually start to look guilty. In law, in PR, and in social dynamics, there is a concept that over-explaining is a confession of insecurity. If I tell you, "I'm a very honest person," and then I spend 10 minutes giving you examples of times I was honest, you will immediately start to wonder what I'm lying about. The truth is self-evident. It doesn't need a marketing team. When someone attacks your character or your work, and you respond with a wall of text defending yourself, you have validated their attack. You have treated their opinion as a serious threat that requires your full energy to neutralize. By doing so, you have elevated them and lowered yourself. The most powerful response to a false accusation or a petty criticism is often no response at all, or at most, a short, calm statement of fact. If you are secure in your results, you don't need to convince anyone. The results will do the convincing for you in due time. The narcissism of being understood. We have an obsession with being understood. We feel that if people just knew our hearts or knew our backstories, they wouldn't judge us. This is a form of narcissism. You are asking the world to stop what it's doing and study the complexities of your inner life. But the world doesn't care about your intentions. The world only cares about your impact. Powerful individuals accept that they will be misunderstood. They accept that they will be the villain in someone else's story. They don't waste their breath trying to edit someone else's perception of them. They understand that people see what they want to see based on their own biases and insecurities. Instead of trying to manage everyone's opinion of them, they manage their own actions. They realize that trying to make everyone understand you is a race with no finish line. It is a leak of energy that could be spent on your mission. Don't explain. Execute. High-status silence versus low-status noise. In any social hierarchy, the person at the bottom does the most talking. Think of the servant explaining a mistake to a master. Think of the employee explaining a late report to a boss. The person with less power is the one providing the data. When you provide a long explanation without being asked for one, you are voluntarily placing yourself at the bottom of the hierarchy. You are acting as if you are accountable to the person you are talking to. High-status individuals speak with economy. They use fewer words because they know their words have weight. They don't feel the need to fill the air to feel important. They know that silence creates a vacuum of authority. When you choose when to speak, rather than speaking out of a need to be heard, your words take on the quality of a command rather than a plea. You stop being a person who reacts to the world's confusion and start being a person who dictates their own reality, letting the results do the talking. There is no argument in the world that is as persuasive as a finished product. If someone says you're lazy, don't argue with them. Outwork them. If someone says your idea won't work, don't explain the logic. Build the prototype. If someone says you're not a leader, don't give a speech on leadership. Lead a team to a massive victory. Speech is cheap. It costs nothing to talk, which is why everyone does it. Execution is expensive. It costs discipline, time, and pain. Because it is expensive, it carries weight. When you explain, you are trying to borrow credit from the future. You are saying, I haven't done it yet, but believe me, I will. When you execute, you are presenting a fait accompli, a thing already done. There is nothing left for the critics to say. They can't argue with a mountain. They can't explain away a result. The urge to explain is often a distraction from the hard work of execution. If you spent half as much time working as you did explaining why you haven't finished working, you would have been done months ago. Don't explain. Execute. The trap of setting the record straight. Social media has made the urge to explain a global epidemic. Someone says something about you or a cause you believe in, and you feel a moral obligation to respond. You tell yourself, if I don't say something, they'll think they're right. So what? Let them think they are right. Let them enjoy their delusion. Your life is not a courtroom, and you are not on trial. The record doesn't need to be set straight by your words. It will be set straight by the trajectory of your life. The most successful people in the world are often the most criticized. Do you see them in the comments section of a tabloid, explaining their choices? No, they are too busy building empires. They understand that for every minute they spend correcting a critic, they are losing a minute of progress toward their goal. If you want to be untouchable, you must lose the need to be right in the eyes of people who don't matter. Practical strategy. The 3-word rule. When you are faced with a situation where you feel the urge to over-explain or defend yourself, try to limit your initial response to 3 to 5 words. I've noted your feedback. The results will show. That's not my concern. I'm comfortable with my choice. By forcing yourself into a word limit, you prevent the emotional leak of an explanation. You maintain your dignity. You leave the other person with nothing to chew on. When you don't give them an explanation, they have to invent their own. And usually, they will invent a reason that makes you seem more confident and more powerful than if you had handed them a list of excuses. The power of "because I decided to." The ultimate form of a controlled response is the lack of a justification. Why did you leave the party early? Because I decided to. Why did you change the direction of the project? Because I decided to. You don't owe the world a roadmap of your logic. When you give people a reason, you give them something to argue with. If you say, "I left because I was tired," they can say, "Oh, come on, have a coffee, stay another hour." But if you simply say, "It was time for me to go," there is no hook. There is no argument. You have asserted your will without seeking permission. Training the silence. This week, practice the non-explanation. If you are late for a coffee date, don't launch into a 5-minute story about traffic and the alarm clock. Simply say, "I'm here now. Thanks for waiting. Let's get started." If you turn down an invitation, don't make up a lie about being busy or having a sick aunt. Simply say, "I won't be able to make it, but I appreciate the invite." Watch how people react. You will feel a strange tension at first, an urge to fill the gap. Resist it. Notice how, over time, people begin to treat your time and your decisions with more respect. They realize that you are a person of action, not a person of excuses. Conclusion to Chapter 8. Weak people use words to hide their lack of results. Strong people use results to render words unnecessary. Your energy is finite. Every day, you have a choice. You can spend that energy trying to convince the world that you are capable, or you can spend it actually being capable. The next time you feel that burning desire to defend your name, to justify your path, or to explain your mistakes, swallow the words. Turn that heat into fuel for your work. Let the world think what it wants for now. In the end, they won't remember what you said anyway. They will only see what you built. Don't explain. Execute. Chapter 9. Master calmness under pressure. The moment of truth. In the early 1970s, NASA was conducting a series of simulations for the Apollo missions. In one particular test, a group of astronauts was placed in a cockpit simulator when a catastrophic, multi-system failure was triggered by the engineers. Warning lights flashed red. Sirens wailed. Oxygen levels on the gauges began to plummet. The engineers watching from the control room expected to see a spike in heart rates. They expected to hear frantic breathing and rapid fire, panicked communication. Instead, they observed something chillingly impressive. The astronauts' heart rates barely moved. Their voices remained steady, low, and rhythmic. They didn't scramble. They moved through their checklists with the deliberate precision of a clockmaker. They didn't survive the simulation because they were faster than the problem. They survived because they were calmer than the problem. Pressure is the ultimate filter of humanity. It separates the amateurs from the masters. It is easy to be controlled when the sun is shining, your bank account is full, and everyone is being nice to you. That isn't control. That's just a lack of friction. True controlled reaction is measured when the stakes are high, the clock is ticking, and the consequences of failure are absolute. Pressure is the test. Calmness is the answer. Pressure does not build character, it reveals it. There is a popular saying that pressure builds character. This is incorrect. Pressure is a spotlight. It reveals exactly what is already inside of you. If you have built a foundation of discipline, pressure will reveal a diamond. If you have spent your life reacting to every minor inconvenience, pressure will reveal dust. When you are under pressure, whether it's a deadline, a hostile confrontation, or a life-altering crisis, your internal default settings take over. If your default setting is panic, you will lose your influence instantly. Why? Because influence is tied to reliability. People follow those who seem to have a map. The moment you start breathing rapidly, raising your voice, and moving frantically, you are signaling to the world that you have lost the map. You are telling everyone around you that the situation is bigger than you are. Once people see that the situation is bigger than you, they will no longer look to you for leadership. You become a liability. The physiology of the high-stakes panic. To master calmness, you must understand what pressure does to your body. When the pressure hits, your body enters survival mode. Your peripheral vision narrows. Literally, you develop tunnel vision. Your hearing becomes selective. Your fine motor skills begin to degrade. This is why, in high-pressure situations, people make stupid mistakes. They fumbled the keys. They forget the password they've used for years. They say the one thing they knew they shouldn't say. The master of calmness knows that the first battle is not against the external problem. It is against their own nervous system. You cannot solve a complex problem while your brain is bathed in cortisol. Your first priority under pressure is to manually override your physiology. If you can keep your heart rate below 100 beats per minute, you retain your access to logic. If it spikes to 140 or higher, you are no longer a person. You are a reflex. Pressure is the test. Calmness is the answer. Tactical breathing, the remote control for the brain. The most elite performers in the world, Navy SEALs, snipers, and emergency room surgeons, use a specific tool to stay calm: box breathing. This isn't some new age relaxation technique. It is a biological hack. By breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding for 4, you are physically forcing your vagus nerve to send a calm down signal to your brain. When you are under pressure, your breath is the only part of your autonomic nervous system that you can control. By controlling your breath, you trick your brain into thinking the situation is safe. And when your brain thinks it's safe, it gives you back your intelligence. The next time a client is screaming at you, or you're about to step on stage, or you receive devastating news, do not speak. Do not move. Perform 3 cycles of box breathing. Reclaim your brain. Then, and only then, decide your response. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. There is a mantra in the military: slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. When beginners are under pressure, they try to move at 100 miles per hour. They rush their words, they rush their movements, and they rush their decisions. This creates friction. Friction creates mistakes. Mistakes create more pressure. It is a death spiral. The professional does the opposite. When the pressure increases, the professional slows down. They speak more slowly. They move with deliberate care. By slowing down, they eliminate mistakes. By eliminating mistakes, they move through the problem smoothly. And because they are moving smoothly without having to go back and fix errors, they end up finishing the task faster than the person who tried to rush. If you want to look powerful under pressure, slow down your speech by 20%. Lower the pitch of your voice. Take a deliberate pause before answering a high-pressure question. This signals that you are in total control of the tempo of the interaction. You aren't dancing to the pressure's tune. The pressure is dancing to yours. The anchor in the storm. In any group setting, a family, a board meeting, a sports team, emotions are contagious. If one person panics, the vibe of panic spreads like a virus. But calmness is also contagious. When you master calmness under pressure, you become the anchor. You become the point of stability that everyone else latches onto. When people see that you aren't flustered, they unconsciously begin to lower their own heart rates. They start to think, well, if he's not panicking, maybe we're going to be okay. This is the hidden secret of charisma. Charisma isn't about being loud or funny. It's about being the most composed person in the room. The person who is unrattleable possesses a magnetic authority that money cannot buy. People will give their loyalty to the person who stays calm when the world is falling apart. Pressure is the test. Calmness is the answer. Reframing. Anxiety versus excitement. Pressure is often a matter of interpretation. Physically, the sensation of anxiety and the sensation of excitement are almost identical. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and you feel a surge of energy. The amateur labels this anxiety and tries to fight it. They tell themselves, I need to calm down, I need to calm down. This only creates more pressure because now they are failing at being calm. The master labels this excitement or readiness. They tell themselves, my body is preparing for a challenge. This adrenaline is fuel. I am being primed for peak performance. By reframing the pressure as an asset rather than a threat, you stop reacting to your own symptoms. You welcome the heat of the moment because you know it is the very thing that will sharpen your focus. The case study of the Sully landing. Consider Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger. When his plane lost both engines over New York City, he had less than 3 minutes to decide the fate of 155 people. If you listen to the black box recordings, his voice is terrifyingly calm. He doesn't scream. He doesn't curse. He doesn't lament the unfairness of the situation. He simply states the facts and executes the maneuvers. When the air traffic controller offered him various runways that were too far away, Sully didn't argue. He didn't get defensive. He simply said, "Unable." That is the power of controlled reactions under pressure. He didn't have the energy to waste on emotion. He needed every ounce of his processing power to fly the plane. When you are under pressure, remember, emotion is a luxury you cannot afford. Every drop of anger or fear you feel is a drop of intelligence you are losing. Practical training, the pressure chamber. How do you train for this? You must build your pressure tolerance. Start by putting yourself in uncomfortable situations where you are forced to remain calm. Public speaking, even in small groups, practice maintaining a low heart rate and slow speech. Difficult conversations. Don't avoid that hard talk with your boss or partner. Walk into it with the goal of being the calmest person in the room. High-intensity exercise. When you are at the point of physical exhaustion and your brain is screaming at you to stop, practice maintaining a neutral facial expression. Don't grimace. Don't pant. Show your brain that you can be under physical duress and still remain composed. The goal is to reach a state where pressure no longer feels like an attack, it feels like a familiar environment. Like a deep-sea diver, you become accustomed to the atmosphere of high stakes. Conclusion to Chapter 9. Pressure is a gift. It is the only way to truly see what you are made of. It is the forge that creates the most capable versions of ourselves. When the pressure rises, when the deadline looms, when the argument heats up, when the crisis hits, do not wish it away. Do not react with the easy emotions of panic or rage. Breathe. Slow down. Analyze the data. Remember that the person who stays calm owns the outcome. The person who breaks loses influence. The world is looking for an anchor. Be that anchor. Pressure is the test. Calmness is the answer. Chapter 10. Become untouchable through discipline. The summit of self-mastery. We have traveled through the mechanics of the pause, the biology of the brain, the tactical use of silence, and the power of detachment. You now possess the blueprint for a life of controlled reactions. But a blueprint is not a building. Knowledge is not power. The application of knowledge is power. In this final chapter, we move beyond techniques. We move beyond tips and hacks. We are talking about a fundamental shift in your identity. We are talking about becoming untouchable. To be untouchable does not mean you are physically isolated from the world. It doesn't mean you don't have problems, or that people will stop trying to disrespect you. It means that you have built a fortress around your mind that is so disciplined, so reinforced by habit, and so clear in its purpose that the external world no longer has the permissions to alter your internal state. When nothing can trigger you, nothing can control you. And when nothing can control you, you have achieved the only form of true freedom that exists on this earth. Unshaken, unmoved, unstoppable. Discipline is not a punishment, it is a shield. Most people view the word discipline with a sense of dread. They associate it with restriction, with saying no to things they want, or with a boring, rigid life. But for the master of reactions, discipline is a shield. It is the armor you put on every morning before you walk into the battlefield of the world. Think about a soldier in ancient times. Without his armor, he is vulnerable to every stray arrow, every minor sword glance, and every piece of debris on the field. He has to spend all his energy worrying about being hit. But with his armor, his discipline, he is free to focus on the objective. He can ignore the clink of arrows bouncing off his breastplate. When you lack the discipline of controlled reactions, you are walking through life emotionally naked. You are constantly hit by other people's moods, by the news, by traffic, and by the opinions of strangers. You spend your life in a defensive, reactive crouch. Discipline allows you to stand tall. It gives you the thickness of character required to walk through the fire and not smell like smoke. It is the ultimate form of self-love because it protects your peace from being stolen by people who don't deserve it. The illusion of one day. One of the greatest traps of the human mind is the belief that one day we will finally be at peace. We think, once I get that promotion, then I'll be calm, or once I find the right partner, I won't be so reactive. This is a backward philosophy. You do not get the promotion to become calm. You become calm to get the promotion. Peace is not a destination you arrive at. It is a discipline you practice while you are on the road. If you cannot be untouchable while you are struggling, you will never be untouchable when you are successful. In fact, success brings more critics, more pressure, and more people trying to trigger you. If you haven't built the discipline of control now, the weight of success will eventually crush you. Being unshaken is a choice you make every single morning. It is a commitment to the process, not a reward for the result. The fortress of the mind. Imagine your mind is a grand fortress. There are walls, there is a gate, and there is a throne room where your will sits. In a reactive person's mind, the gate is broken. Anyone can walk in. The villagers are screaming in the halls. The enemies have taken up residence in the kitchen. The throne is empty. In the untouchable person's mind, the gates are guarded. When an insult arrives at the gate, the guard, the observer, looks at it and asks, "Does this serve the king or queen? Is this useful data?" If the answer is no, the gate stays shut. The insult can scream at the walls all day long, but it never enters the throne room. It never reaches the heart. This is what it means to be unshaken. The storm is real, the wind is blowing, the rain is pouring, but inside the fortress, the candles aren't even flickering. You acknowledge the external reality without allowing it to become your internal reality. Unshaken, unmoved, unstoppable. The power of being dead to criticism. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote about the concept of being like the emerald that keeps its color no matter what anyone says about it. Or more poignantly, the idea of being dead to the world's opinion. Think about a corpse. You can shout at a corpse. You can insult its family. You can tell it that its work was terrible and that it's a failure. Does the corpse react? Does its heart rate increase? Does it get defensive? Of course not. Because it has no ego left to defend. To be untouchable, you must perform a controlled ego death. Most of your reactions are just your ego trying to protect its self-image. When someone insults you, they aren't hitting you. They are hitting the image you have of yourself. If you let go of that image, if you stop caring about being perceived as cool, smart, or important, then the insults have nothing to hit. They pass right through you like a ghost. When you are dead to the need for approval, you are finally alive to your true potential. The 24-hour rule, the final test of discipline. As you move forward from this book, I want you to adopt the 24-hour rule for any major emotional trigger. If someone says something that truly burns you, something that makes your blood boil, give yourself a 24-hour moratorium on reacting. No sending the email. No posting the rebuttal. No confronting the person. During those 24 hours, you will feel the chemical waves of anger rise and fall. You will feel the ego screaming for justice. You will feel the need to be heard. Watch those feelings. Let them burn themselves out. Usually, by hour 22, you will look back at the situation and realize that a reaction would have been a waste of energy. You will see the strategic move instead of the emotional one. This is the peak of discipline. It is the ability to sit with discomfort and not move. The ripple effect of a controlled life. When you become untouchable, something incredible happens to your environment. You begin to force multiply the peace around you. Your children see you remain calm when the car breaks down, and they learn that chaos is not a reason to panic. Your employees see you stay steady when the numbers are down, and they find the courage to keep working. Your partner sees that they can no longer bait you into a fight, and the relationship is forced to evolve into a higher level of communication. By mastering your reactions, you are not just helping yourself. You are becoming a lighthouse for everyone else who is lost at sea. You are showing the world that it is possible to be a human being who is not a slave to their impulses. You are proof that dignity is still possible in a loud and undignified world. Unshaken, unmoved, unstoppable. The maintenance of the blade. This discipline is not a one-time achievement. You don't become untouchable and then stay that way forever. It is like physical fitness. If you stop training, you get soft. You must maintain the blade. Keep practicing the silence. Keep seeking out small discomforts. Keep auditing who has emotional access to you. Keep counting to 10. There will be days when you fail. There will be days when you snap at someone, or when you let a comment ruin your afternoon. When that happens, do not spiral into self-criticism. That is just another emotional reaction. Simply observe the failure. Analyze where the gate broke. Repair the wall. And start again the next morning. The untouchable person is not someone who never fails. They are someone who never stays down. The ultimate freedom. What is on the other side of this discipline? It is a level of clarity that most people will never know. When you are no longer reacting to everything, you have a massive surplus of mental energy. You can use that energy to build businesses, to create art, to deepen your relationships, and to explore your own mind. You are no longer a puppet. You are the puppeteer. You are no longer the dry leaves blowing in the street. You are the wind. True freedom is the ability to look at a temptation, an insult, or a catastrophe and say, I see you, but I am not moved by you. That is the moment you become the master of your fate. That is the moment you become the captain of your soul. Final closing, your new mantra. As you finish this audiobook and step back into the world, the noise will start immediately. People will cut you off in traffic. You will see a frustrating headline. You will get a stressful text. In that moment, remember everything we have discussed. Feel the heat. Take the breath. Count the seconds. Maintain the silence. Detach from the result. And whisper to yourself the 3 words that define your new life. Unshaken, because my center is solid. Unmoved, because my emotions are not my authority. Unstoppable, because when nothing can control me, nothing can stop me. Go forth and be the eye of the storm. Your power is not in your noise. Your power is in your pause. Pause is power. Delay is dominance. End of audiobook.